Our next guest is a psychologist, a coach who worked with many men and women, and relationship dynamics, definitely a big part of her practice. What role do love languages have, though? What is a love language? How do you find yours? Let's find out now with Charlie Spurway. I love the topic of love languages, Charlie. Great to have you with us. For anyone that is like, what is Helen going on about love languages? There are 5. What do you want to start with?
Hi, thanks for having me. Love languages are a huge part of all of our relationships, not necessarily just our romantic ones, but they come up mostly with the clients that I have that are in couples or having relationship challenges. So quite simply, a love language is how we give and receive love. And if we don't have the knowledge around love languages, it kind of affects the success of our relationships, because we probably have an unmet need, or if our love languages or other needs that we have are not aligning with our partner, we tend to be more critical of them, more resentful of them, and we genuinely tend to feel unloved by them.
That's interesting. So it can be that serious. I'm trying to not give away too much about my own marriage, but it's something that we struggled with, or I certainly struggled with at the beginning of our relationship. Because the way my husband gives love is not how I receive it. We're going to talk about what these 5 love languages are and where there can be potential clashes and miscommunication. So there are 5. Which love language would you like to start with, Charlie?
Let's go for words of affirmation.
Okay, tell us about that as a love language.
Yeah, so if this resonates with you, your most dominant love language may be words of affirmation. So if you enjoy feeling seen and known and understood or validated, or possibly you like compliments, or maybe you just like hearing I love you or thank you, or something that might resonate with asking how your time was today at work, or your time in a hobby. So words of affirmation are genuinely where we like to verbally hear somebody appreciating us and loving us through words.
I think that's a really good distinction. It's not just about giving compliments and that kind of throwaway, you look nice, but it can be saying, oh, Charlie, I really admired how you handled that situation. Someone taking the time to recognise and then verbalise what they've experienced and what they've seen.
Yeah.
And there's the I love yous are, a big part of it as well. So that is words of affirmation. What is love language number 2 on your list?
So a big one is quality time. So quality time is genuinely divided into emotional or social connection. So this is where we are spending quality time with our loved ones. And that doesn't mean sat on the sofa with the TV on. That actually means engaging together, doing a particular activity or a hobby. So it could be simply walking down the canal or walking along the beach, or maybe just playing a pack of cards. It could be a variety of things, but ultimately it doesn't just have to be a traditional going for a dinner date.
So I think my husband's love language is quality time. Well, I think he's got 2. I think most people have one dominant and one kind of secondary. So as an example, on Sunday night, he signed us up for a paddle tournament. Did I want to do this? Absolutely not. I was so nervous because I played a bit of paddle, but we were playing basically against the whole Spanish population of Dubai, who are excellent at paddle, I should point out. But it was really, really important to him. And I was like, just want to tell you, I'm really nervous about doing this. But that was me kind of going, I'm showing you how much I love you by putting myself in a situation that I am really, really anxious about. We lost, for what it's worth. So quality time, making memories together, spending time together, is not side by side watching Netflix.
Yeah, just to build on your example there, remembering that love is an active choice, okay? So even if it's things that we don't want to be doing, we're showing our partner that we love them and we're committed to them.
Within reason.
Within reason, because obviously one of his personality needs, therefore, is going to be kind of growth, right, around maybe health and fitness, which we'll talk about, which is slightly different from love languages, but the quality time.
Okay, we're going to be outlining the other 3 love languages. Let us know yours on 4001. There is a quiz you can do. It's just simply Google love language quiz. This is over on 5lovelanguages.com. This is from Dr. Gary Chapman, whose book has sold out many a time. There's also love languages for children. It's something that we had to do at church as part of our marriage preparation course, and I'm so grateful we did, because it's really helped us in so many ways. What's next on your list, Charlie?
The one I think we all know, which is physical touch.
Now, let's talk about that and unpack that, because I think there might be a few myths or confusion around it.
Yeah, so with physical touch, let's remember that we have 5 senses. So it could be simply being close, feeling warmth. It could be holding hands. It could be a kiss. It could be a hug. It could just be, a slight stroke of a finger. It doesn't necessarily need to be intimate. And most people don't think that. So physical touch can happen at multiple times, during the day or over the course of the week, where it can be kind of explored in a nicer way, on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. We've actually had a message about two messages around the physical touch love language. One is, which we're going to come to after past, which is basically saying my boyfriend and I are together. His love language is physical touch, and he needs a lot of it. So we're gonna address that after past. The text lines are open if you want to know, share your love language or indeed any issues you might be having with it. Love language number 4, Charlie Spurway,
is acts of service.
Ah, interesting. Okay, what do we mean by acts of service in this context?
So most people would see this as cooking, as cleaning, as maybe doing the laundry, maybe being the person in charge of paying the bills or doing the admin, maybe somebody who's booking holidays. It's basically someone who's doing something as a service to help out.
And that could be aiming to lighten a mental load, or, something that might be on your to-do list. So it's interesting because I'd say my husband's other love language is acts of service, which means he pays attention to things that I wouldn't even notice. And, I love him for it. But there are some times I'm like, I actually don't care that the shower rail is wonky. Can I just have a hug, please? Do you know what I mean? And I think what can be really interesting and crucial about knowing your partner's love language is when they are doing something, it's how they express love. We just need to perhaps reframe it in our mind of going, he's doing that because he loves you. And I spoke to, and I miss her all the time, a counsellor called Helen Williams, who lived in Dubai for a long time. She's back in New Zealand now. And we talked about love languages, and I went to see her for counselling. And she was talking about how she had doubted her husband's love for her because he didn't express love in the way that she was used to receiving, which I think was physical touch, if memory serves correctly. And he'd said to her, well, think about this morning. I got up early. You needed to have that letter to the post box before the first post was taken. And he said, I got up and I did that for you, and I loved you every step of the way to that post box. And I loved you the whole way home. And she was like, oh, I thought you were just, putting a letter in the post box. And I think it can be so good to just, reframe why our partners do what they do. And acts of service can be actually a very loving thing to do. That's all. So, number 5, what are we left with? If everyone's going, it's not words of affirmation. No, it's not really physical touch. What's our last one? Because it's one of the most misunderstood as well, I would say.
Yeah, so the 5th one is gifts. So this might be, it doesn't need to be financial, actually. It could be something simple like a love note or a letter, or it could be giving flowers. It could be concert tickets. It could be anything that is a gift. It comes in all shapes and sizes.
This morning I went to Spinneys and I bought my husband a bottle of apple and blackcurrant squash because he loves it, and a packet of Tim Tams. So it can be like, I saw this and thought of you, or I made this for you.
Yeah, exactly. It could absolutely be something that's created, and children genuinely do that with their love languages. Mm-hmm. You might notice that they'll come with a drawing and it's like a special surprise, or they've made you something. So a gift doesn't need to be expensive or fancy. It could just be something that they've created themselves.
That's a really interesting point. As I said earlier, my husband and I had to learn about the love languages as part of our marriage preparation at church. And I wondered why you think it is so important for couples to know their love languages, both their own and each other's.
Definitely. If we don't know ours, we can't communicate it and ask for it when our kind of love bucket isn't being filled. And if we don't know our partners, we can't fill theirs as well. And sometimes how we give love is the way we like to receive it back, but not always. And we spoke earlier that, you know, we might have a dominating one. It's nice to receive all five, but normally the top one or two that we do kind of is how we give love ourselves. And the reason it's so important is if we kind of don't have needs awareness around our love languages and our needs, we tend to have very unhealthy coping mechanisms to meet that need. And our brain kind of works in the fastest way to get that need met. And when it's around love, it's bickering or anger or the silent treatment. And ultimately, it's because we're feeling unloved, we're feeling unseen, we're feeling unheard. So we're responding in an unhealthy way to try and get the love and connection that we crave.
Interesting. Okay. So we've had a lot of messages on this. And I think where some of the big problems are when there is a bit of a clash or a misunderstanding. We've had some just people just generally sharing their love languages. Can I go to the text line, Charlie? Would that be okay?
Yeah,
4001. If you don't mind getting in touch there, you can be completely anonymous. No name on this one. Saying, I don't know what my love language is, but my husband never compliments me, so I think it might be words of affirmation. Even when I dress up, saying I don't feel attractive, so I feel like he hasn't got a reason to compliment me. But when I do make an effort and I feel okay, he doesn't compliment me and makes me feel terrible. I know he used to compliment his ex. I can't help but cry when I think about this. I've spoken to him about it, asking, do you not find me attractive? Why don't you compliment me? And his reply is that he does, but the thought doesn't come to his mind. But he thinks it. How do I move past this?
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's really hard because I think it takes a huge amount of bravery to say, this is what I need. This is what's important to me. You know, if I make an effort to look nice, it would mean a lot to me if you could acknowledge that. And then for him to say, I do think it, I just don't say it, and then to not make any changes. So what advice would you give to the listener, Charlie?
I think the biggest one is if this is something that has been happening for a while and it concerns you, as it sounds like, it's to communicate that to your partner and have that vulnerable conversation, and always lead with a feeling. So I'm feeling unloved when I don't hear a compliment, or maybe I feel like I don't matter. Explain that, I think words of affirmation are my love language and this means a lot to me. And then it's for your partner, as we always say, that love is a choice, to make that active choice in trying to meet your love language need. So your love bucket, if you like, fills up in the way that you need.
Now, I'm sitting and talking about this specific message that we got, but when is it a case where you are just inherently incompatible? You know, is there a case of going, do you know what, we just can't seem to communicate. We can't make each other feel loved and seen and recognised and supported. And it's just not working. Can it get that serious, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when we have chronic unmet needs over a long time, we can have extreme emotional responses when we're not feeling safe and we're not feeling loved. And from a love language and needs perspective, when we're not aligning and our needs are being unmet, it can be quite catastrophic for a relationship. So if you don't know about love languages and you don't know about your personality needs, I do urge my clients and, you know, those people out there, for the success of your relationship, start learning this, because it is really important.
Message here saying, I'm in a bit of a rough patch with my husband. We're clashing over small things and family stress isn't helping. I like the love language concept. Is there a questionnaire that can be used as a starting point? So to see the other person's point of view rather than having an open conversation, which I worried would end up as another argument. I think, yes, there is. Basically, this is based on the work of Dr. Gary Chapman. You can just Google love language quiz. The website is 5 as in the number, 5lovelanguages.com, and you don't need to sign up for anything. I did it earlier today. For what it's worth, I am not half, but my two dominant are physical touch. COVID was horrendous for me. I hug people in the supermarket. I was really struggling to not. And words of affirmation. So you will probably get a bit of a breakdown in terms of, it's a bit like a pie chart. Your dominant ones going down. Gift giving was my least, which I find strange because I do love a present. We've had a message here saying my love language is massaging him. So expressing love, that's through physical touch. And his is cooking for me and accepting the fact that I'm not very well. Oh, and message here, no name, and you can, of course, be anonymous, saying, can we discuss love languages with parents? Mine is quality time and my mum's is gifts. She gets hurt when we reject the large clutter of gifts instead of spending time with her. She's a social butterfly, so quality time does not exist in her love language. This is really interesting because my mum's is gifts as well. So she will put packages in the post. We haven't told her that shop and ship actually cost us money. I can't bring myself to do it. She'll put packages in the post, mostly for the kids or when we come and visit. And it's presents. Like, we don't need more plastic tat, Mum. We just don't. We'd rather just hang out and make memories. And she's great with playing with them as well. So do the same concepts apply, whether it's like intergenerational or, familial love?
Yeah, love languages exist within our friendships, within our romantic relationships, and also with our parents and our own children. Because ultimately, we love all of those people in our lives in some capacity. So therefore, how we show them that love could be words of affirmation, it could be gift giving, it could be quality time. So again, it's about being able to recognize what yours is. And there's so much power within that, because then you can start unpicking it in others and be able to love them in the way that they need to be loved.
Can we talk about physical touch? Because we've had 2 messages on this topic. One is from a man who's saying, I'm mid-30s, married with kids. My wife doesn't touch me, no kisses, no hugs, nothing. When I go to touch her, she shrugs away. We've had talks about it. She says she doesn't know why. She doesn't have the urge to be affectionate anymore. I've begged, I've seen no improvement. Intimacy has dwindled. Physical touch is definitely my love language and I feel like I'm starving. And I'm ashamed to say it has crossed my mind about looking for it outside of the marriage. So this is getting to the point you alluded to earlier about, when things can really start to fall apart. What advice would you give this listener? He's saying, I'm deeply unhappy. I don't know what to do. I don't want to break up my family.
Yeah, I see this a lot in my clients at various different stages of the relationship dynamic breaking down. So my advice is always learn your love languages, learn what your needs are, because then we can start to unpack how to be brave enough and courageous enough to have these conversations. I hear all of the time about the dishes not being cleaned up or left on the side, or the laundry not being done, for example. And it's not actually about the dishes or the laundry not being done. It's because you're feeling unloved and you're kind of feeling, well, maybe I don't matter to you. I'm not feeling that you respect me for you to be leaving that on the side. And as soon as we're able to sit down and have that conversation about how we're really feeling, rather than reacting in a bickering manner or a nagging manner or an angry manner, and we kind of go, do you know what? I actually need your support with this. Like, this is important to me. I'm feeling really disrespected and really unloved when you leave dishes on the side. I know that's not your intention, but that's how I'm feeling. And I would really appreciate if you could help support me feel more love from you by doing X and Y.
Charlie, can I ask you where our love languages come from? And I'm thinking about physical touch in particular because we've had a message saying I wasn't brought up in a lovey-dovey household, so we're just not a tactile family. You can't force someone, and I would hate someone to be like, okay, physical touch is your love language, come here for your daily 5-second squeeze, because it feels forced and inauthentic. So where do our love languages come from? What informs that?
So most of our love languages are developed from childhood. So if you were part of a huggy, kissy family, that always kind of said, I love you, genuinely speaking, physical touch and words of affirmation will be some of your dominating love languages. So they kind of develop, as we're growing up. They can change and they can evolve. But the key that I, speak to my clients about is it's just doing something small that you do feel comfortable with, that's working towards your partner's love language. And over time, try and just take it a little step further and a step further. So with this, text message, for example, just try simply by maybe grabbing the hand for a few seconds, like to kind of, or a kiss on the cheek. Okay. And then over time, maybe hold hands for longer. So we would call this exposure therapy, and just slowly start with something that, you know, is slightly uncomfortable, and over time just ease up the intensity of that. And we are human, which means we can learn and we can change and we can evolve and we can grow when we have a choice.
What about the flip side? We've had a message here saying my boyfriend and I have been together 2 years. His love language is physical touch and he needs a lot of it, whereas I certainly don't. I think we touch regularly. We kiss in the morning, hold hands, cuddle on the couch. He'll have his hand on my leg if we're driving, hugs in the kitchen. All of that is enough for me, but he wants to be touching all the time. We've often had disagreements about it. He feels like it's natural to want to do it all the time and tells me when he needs more. In honesty, it stifles me and it makes me want to recoil. I don't want to be cuddled in bed. I want to read my book. I'm at a point now, whenever he comes near me, I get irritated, and that's not fair on him. He genuinely wants a bit more affection than I feel uncomfortable to give. How can we meet in the middle?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the key one is to uphold your boundaries and what you feel comfortable with, but at the same time, trying to find that compromising solution. And it's communication, communication, communication. If you're feeling uncomfortable, try and have this conversation with your partner, but with a positive twist. So reassure them how much you love them and you care for them. I call it the sandwich effect. Go in with a compliment and then talk about the underlying issue and how you feel. Just say, I really love you. However, I don't have this much kind of physical touch. And when you can start being clinical with things and label things, people can start to understand more. And hopefully from talking, you're able to find a common ground that works for you.
Charlie, do you ever come across couples where you've explained the concept of the 5 love languages to them and they've taken it into account and it's actually improved their relationship?
Yeah, hugely. Just from talking about love languages, knowing them, knowing their attachment theory, which attachment style they are, which can link to love languages as well. So if we're more avoidant, we generally aren't as touchy-feely. For example, we're more acts of service. And then knowing our personality needs and being able to be brave enough to communicate them in a healthy way. And having healthier coping mechanisms, i.e. not going to anger because you're feeling unseen or getting frustrated with something that you feel powerless over. So it's about communicating and keeping that safety within a relationship so security can prevail.
And it comes back to that idea about love being an active choice. You know, it really does. A message here saying maybe she's overtouched. Too much time with kids can make her withdraw. Too stressed to be touched. Hard relate. I think a lot of parents, and I don't want to generalise and be reductive, but I think mums in particular, I used to joke that if my kids' hands were covered in ink, I would be black and blue from head to toe. So yeah, being overstimulated and overtouched by kids can absolutely... In fact, that's a great topic for another day. So thank you, mystery listener, for that. Charlie Spurrier, for anyone who wants to get in touch with you on this topic to explore it further, or indeed come along for couples or individual counselling therapy, what's the best way of getting in touch?
Yeah, so I often give couples tips for dating or relationships on my Instagram page, which is Charlie Psychology, or you can reach out to me if you would like some therapy on charlottespurway.com.
There you go. Hope that helps. Thank you so much. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead.